What's going on, everybody? Krydax here. Welcome back to Dingrits Season 3. While we are also playing pyanodons. We are working on getting our Dingrit places. Oh, those also need... That's so interesting, Niobium Titanium Alloy. I guess that's just a new thing at this tech tier that they're introducing into the buildings. Okay, well, we should have the shipment of that pretty soon. Let's see, where is our situation? We gotta be close to 1,000, right? Yeah, we're at 916. Okay, so we'll see that showing up soon. And then Dingrit food is still not here. That seems like an issue. Yeah, a little bit. So we're only making 5.75 a minute, which is almost enough, but it's actually not even enough. Good gracious. This is wild. So how do I fix this? I guess really did not anticipate needing this much Yotoi. I'm gonna do this. And this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And I think all of that put together will double down on our Yotoi production here and give us... Hey, we're up to in the seconds now, 0.2 a second. This is the other thing that PRCE cannot do, which rate calc can do, which I actually like, is being able to, you know, multiply this here and increase. So you can see the math more easily on like per minute and stuff. But 0.2 a second is, you know, 1.2 a minute, or 12 a minute. So that should be enough. Still very slow. I don't know how much are we at here. We're only at 288. Oh my gosh. This stuff is crazy. We're making more Yotois for Dingrits than we've made for other reasons in the entire game, it feels like. This is bonkers. Let's head over here manually. Get this all done. And then how are our brains doing after what we did last episode? Perfect. They've spiked back up here. Okay, good, good, good. That fix seemed to have actually worked. All right, so we gotta do limestone. I'm just gonna say 50 for everything until I know better. Because what did he say this belt was about 230? And so because of it, I don't know if you guys remember, this was many hundreds of hours ago, but remember we talked about how, like, if you're consuming items evenly across a belt and you need the average to be this many, then you actually are going to end up needing the front end to have a higher rate of items, even if the total amount is the same. So the total, so I guess I don't need to worry about the total amount. The way I've been calculating the total amount is correct. But what I do need to worry about is the front end of the belt is going to end up with more items per second than the average throughput of the belt, because that's just how that works. So like if I need 2.25, then that's using up, and let's just say it's on a single lane and it's unstacked, right? That's using up 15% of the red belt's potential throughput. But realistically, in the extreme case, it's actually going to be using up more than that. It might use up 30% of the belt's throughput, or even 45% of the belt's throughput if all of the gravel is being consumed in the first third of the belt. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense to you guys. So like here, this is an example of where the sushi belt has a little bit of a downside, because since we're looking at item count, you know what's interesting? I just realized this. This is another argument. This was a long time ago. I think it might have even involved Goats with Pants and some other people on the Pi Discord. And when I say argument, that's really the wrong phrase. It was more like we were talking about different ways to do the sushi belt. And they were using the model where you do, you know, you side load and you're just measuring like these three, like this. And you control this guy based on that measurement. And that way, this setup is consistent no matter how much sushi is after that, right? Because you can just, you know that this holds a total of 12 items for 15 items a second. And so, I mean, if you want to, you could even measure 4 belts. And now you're looking at almost just the number of items you want per second is the number of items. So like if I want 2 items a second, I would just go less than 2, right? And now that would basically give me 2 items a second. Technically, it's a smidge less than that. But yeah, so that is essentially the other way to do it. The problem with this method is when you sideload onto different spots, well, now you're looking at different measurements. And so you get into a little bit of a weird situation there where like, well, now if I'm sideloading onto these, I'm only measuring 3 belts worth. Right? And this one I'm measuring 4 belts worth. And so how do you manage all of that properly? And one option, you know, and it depends on how many gradations you want, like 12 different gradations is probably enough. So you can always just side load up to 4 items like this onto this one belt. And if you really wanted to, you could use the power of bobs to do diagonal inserters to accomplish something similar. Though, you also get into a weird little issue where this lane actually can't get up to 12 items, so that's going to be slightly wrong. So realistically, it's almost like you should measure these 3 and not this one. Is that even... But then it's going to do the overload and then underload thing. It'll kind of wobble back and forth, so that's a little weird. So there's issues with this that maybe can be worked out properly. I haven't thought about it long enough. Anyway, the thing I was gonna say is you could then just do another set of 3 and then have more items here, you know, and do it that way. But again, that's a little weird because the item you're loading on the back has more room on this belt than this one does, so that changes your counts a little bit too. So there's downsides to both methods. You could also just load a bunch back here and then measure like, you know, 6 belts or something. And then it's true you have a little bit of pulsing with this one loading 2 belts worth, and then it's like too much, and then it stops, and then it loads, and then it stops. Because like if this one was only supposed to be a tiny amount, it would always load 2 full belts. That would just be too much as soon as one runs out. So yeah, I don't really know the right answer. I think you do need to measure the belts right in front of it. Otherwise, it's really overloading items that need low counts. And then at that point, you've got slightly wrong rates on these ones that are closer to the front than the back. The rates get more and more accurate the longer out you measure. So you could maybe make like a 10 belt runway to be really consistent and not have to worry about the rounding very often. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know the easy solution to this. Maybe someone smarter than me has the answer. Oh, I kind of have a half answer. This requires even more space, but what you could do is you could, you know, you're measuring all of these, and for these ones, you also measure this. And now this is the one that you stop. You enable disable this one. And so now the total here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 belts, right? And oh, this is also just single. Yeah, but anyway. So now it's like 6 belts, and then this is 6 belts, and now you're still doing with the same rate. So that's I guess one way to do it, but then that makes the whole design even bigger and bulkier to figure out. So all that to say, that's the other method, and the strength of that method, back to my original point, is that in this context, like let's say these 3 Yotoi orchards consumed all 2.25 gravel. My current method of loading gravel based on the total belt count is going to give me a really bad number here. Because what's going to happen is it's going to load up enough gravel to have an average rate of 2.25 across the entire belt, but it's all going to be getting eaten right here. And so we're going to need like 20 items a second on, goodness, accidental right clicks, man. We're going to need like 20 items a second just on this section because the rest of it's going to be empty. And I think you guys understand what I'm saying there, because like if this is your gradient, but these buildings are consuming all of your items or most of them, then you need this to average out, you know, to that across the board. And you can see how that's a problem with belt throughput. So my system is very weak to any builds where it's not a consistent consumption along the sushi belt. The other system, you know, we'll call it sushi system 2 that we were just talking about, where you measure just a set number of belts. This system is stronger because it will give you a fixed rate no matter how long the belt is after it. But it has some other little quibbles that we kind of just discovered, and there's probably other quibbles that I haven't even discovered. So there's no perfect answer is kind of my bottom line. But I'm realizing that my answer has a pretty glaring weakness for builds like this, where you're consuming on different parts of the belt. Now, the good news is we've got stacked gravel, and the amount I need of total items here is not that much, so I'm not worried about it. But where's the button? There's a belt button somewhere that I actually want to look at for once. Can I change that to red? Yeah. Okay, we're doing with non-stacked. I wish, is there a sum? I want a sum of all of those put together. Like, I want to know all of that for sushi purposes, but it won't tell me, I guess. It's funny, because before Space Age, no one would have ever cared about that feature, but now knowing what all of these added together is kind of a reasonable feature for Hellmod to have. But yeah, I mean, you can see we're looking at, you know, well, it's hard. How do I even describe this? So 0.04 is the highest number. Yeah, there's no easy way to do this other than literally just adding them up one at a time, which, you know, you could do with a calculator if you really wanted to. You know, 9 plus 4 plus 2 plus 9 plus 6 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, no, that's 20, or 19 plus 6 plus 4 plus 38 plus 19 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 38 plus 38, but I don't double that one because that's the fruit, plus 75 gravel, plus 38 plus 31 plus the empty cages, which is 6. So we get a third of a belt, and that's if nothing's stacked, so we're fine. But, you know, that is kind of an interesting way to go about it. Anyway, how much gravel do we actually need? Now, I guess I've kind of... I didn't make a counterpoint to my counterpoint. So I was just attacking my own sushi design, saying it's weak to systems like this. But it's not if you just know that the system is like this, right? If we know that these buildings are going to be consuming 2.4 gravel a second on the first half of the belt, then I can just lower my gravel count to accommodate that. Because now I only need 2.5 gravel across a 110 belt, not a 220 belt segment. Does that make sense? So like I can just lower the gravel count and still get the proper rate. I don't need the gravel to be averaged over the backside as well. And so because of that, a lower gravel count will still accomplish the same task. So you can just accommodate. It's more work, I guess, is the problem. But we can accommodate for this by saying, like, we need 2.25 across the whole belt, which is really like, you know, what did we say the whole belt is? 220. So 2.25, you know, it's like 220 would give us 3.75. Which is more than enough. But we only need it over the front segment. So 110 is still more than enough just over the front segment. The problem is when it's on the backside now, we're not getting enough. And so you do need to overshoot a little bit. Like, and we already have overshot because that was enough for 3.75 and we only need 2.25. But I'm going to overshoot even a little bit more because this is stacked, so we're fine. Anyway, I hope all of that was interesting to you. Most of my viewers tend to say that's the type of thing they find interesting when we chat about stuff like this, so I am going to trust that you guys enjoyed that. And if you didn't, well, you're probably not watching 400 hours of me play pyanodons. Let's be honest. Alright, caged scrawn dry. We only need like... What even is that? So 22 would still be more than I need. So I'll go with 30, and that's... Because at some point you need enough just to pass by the building once in a while. You know what I mean? And the red belt helps with that, of course. But yeah, did I do the math on limestone? I don't think I did. And limestone's stacked, so I'll just go with 100 for that. That should be plenty. That's about 1.875. We do 110. Right? What's 3.2? Yeah. So yeah, let's just do 110. And then soil is a little lower than that, so we'll go with like 90. Because they're stacked, I don't feel really weird about overfilling. And then bedding is super low. I mean, we're talking even half of what we need for Scrondrix. 15 bedding would be enough. I'm also realizing I didn't split this like I should have. So we need to do bedding right. And we go bedding less than 25. I'll just say 30 is my minimum because it's not stacked. All right, well, that was deep dive. That was an extra 10 minutes of just deep diving into random sushi stuff that, you know, I find that fun. Not strictly necessary, but that's fine. All right. Get that plugged in, and then we go you and you. Okay. And yeah, since we need to use both sides of the belt here, we will use the far side. Oh, you know what I just realized? Huh. I hadn't considered that. Okay. Thankfully, I left an extra space. One thing I did not consider. The thought oh, of course the wire can't be stretched any longer. The thought entered my mind, but the ramifications of what that means for sushi did not enter my mind. The yotoi, we have to wait for the yotoi to spoil. And I want it to spoil on the sushi belt. So because of that, I'm gonna go with well, I guess the other method would be to give each one its own chest. Because it takes how long to spoil? It takes 4 minutes to spoil. Which means I need an extra 240 Yotoi just zooming around. Because 240 Yotoi would spoil at a rate of 67 a minute. So that's on top of everything else. Which is an extra 25% of a lane, but if it's stacked, it's only about 12%. You know what? I'm going with the chest method instead. It's even possible that a long belt, like, what if I just had like a belt that went like this? Like, is that good enough? Especially if I load both sides of it. Because the rate of just one of these is 0.133 a second. So what we want to know is how many does it make per 4 minutes? Because that's essentially the spoil, you know, the spoil amount. And it's only making 32 in a 4-minute time span. So if I can buffer 32 items, which is only 8 belts, or 4 belts if both lanes are loaded, then we actually don't even need to worry about it. We can just let it spoil on the belt. So, my dear reader, I think we've got our answer here. I actually really like this. And there's something cool about it because we haven't done stuff like this before. Now we have a little... there's a downside. Which is... we're going to need to use inserters to take off the belt. Because they need to be filtered. Because you can't filter belts without a splitter, which I don't have space for. Okay, so anyway, so we're offloading onto a belt like this, and you go onto the left side, which is that. And those will offload anything. And then we'll need 5 sections because they're loading onto the middle of it. Make sure we have enough room. And then we pull off of that belt with a filtered to Yotoi seeds. And then that's what actually gets controlled. Just period. Yeah, that's what gets controlled by counts. And then we need the seeds to be actually a pretty decent rate. 0.126 is about 220. Cut that in half. That's another 110. Yeah, I like this. There's something cool about this. Partially, I think for me, there's something cool about it is just that we've never done it before. To me, that makes it cool and fun. Now this is not going to work that way. That needs to be close. That needs to be far. I do think spoilage overall has added good things for pyanodons. It definitely got even better as soon as they made that tweak. You know, this was like 50 hours into our py run or whatever, when they made the tweak where spoiled items start spoiling on the finish of craft if it's an item that always finishes crafting at 100%. Right? Because in Space Age, a lot of the spoilable items are set differently. They're set such that you only... Now, we should have these by now. They're set up such that you only get them if... Okay, now that I'm actually confused on. Did my auto mall fail? Can these can make Dingrit packs? Or I mean, can they? I just need a guarantee. Oh, I haven't unlocked the recipe. Man, that always gets me. I just assumed we had the tier 2 building. But Fadai, Dingrit, Kamau, Zongror, Simics, and Xenos don't get tier 2 until this stage. See, and that's kind of annoying because the other animals that we unlocked recently, like Arthurians, we did get stage 2. And in my mind, these are all kind of the same vibe because you don't really need them. And we got stage 2 of Scrondrix as well. And so in my mind, you only need them once you go for Pi 3, so it feels like they all should follow the same rules, but they don't. Well, that's no good. Okay. That means these are going to be a lot slower than I thought. Okay, anyway, I feel like I was in the middle of making some point and then I lost it. Empty cages, we are pulling off. Empty barrels, we are pulling off. These are all wired. These should just run all the time. But these ones need to run based on the... Based on the this inserter is what... Yeah, I was worried about that. So... I guess we'll just wire them up to the building. Use the buildings as the wire. Connectors. Okay. And then those are all wired up to that, which is wired. Okay, so everything's wired up. I don't think any of the rates matter here, right? Like per building. Inserter rate issues. I think one is fine. Okay, so now we're still waiting on the first shipment of Dingrit food. Did I go for 10 stacks of that? I did. How close are we getting to that? I will manually deliver a few if we're not close. We are at 558. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and grab some. Yeah, that is so interesting about the tier 2 buildings or Mark 2 buildings. I don't know why they do it that way. Relasia turd, huh? What are those options? Oh, I feel like we looked at this. So you can add in some cellulose. No! Wait, where was that going? The heck? Oh, it's because I queued up multiple and it takes you to the new one and then the old one, I think is how that works. Alright. Just gonna take the dingy food. Head back up. And back to Relasia turd. We've got real speed 12%. Okay, that's not... Really? That's a whole turd? Surely it does more than that. It doesn't even make it consume less electricity. That's gotta be one of the worst turds in the game. Literally just a speed boost of 12%, and that's all it does for you. And then it makes the buildings way more expensive on top of that. That is my idea of like, this is one of the most underwhelming turds in the game. Good gravy. That's so bad. 12%. That's like, oh, instead of 9 buildings, I only need 8 buildings. Woohoo! That's literally all it does. I mean, that's the whole turd. Yeah, that's not my idea of a good time for turd upgrades. Okay, and then right here should be about the same as Scrondrix, which was 30. Okay. Oh, these need inserters. Okay, and then that one's weird, but it is set up properly. Cool. And we totally could have used a chest instead of belts. I think the belt method is way cooler, so that's why I went with it. But it is the same thing. There is the truth about when you use a chest, you're going to end up with stacks that are spoiling, so you'd probably end up needing like 3 stacks or something total. Like one that's spoiling, one that the new stuff is flowing into, because it's averaging out to be the higher spoilage time until the stack is full, and then the whole thing spoils at once. But yeah, we should be good now, and now the Dingrit pups are running, so we are about to see our first Dingrits. Now, we do need to control this one to make only a certain amount of pups, which is 0.15, which is going to be another, like, 22 would be 0.375, so we need less than that, but 30 is my minimum, so we're just going to go with the minimum. And because there's only one of these buildings, this is a lesson we've learned as well. Having 2 inserters makes it more like guaranteed that it's going to fill with the items when they pass by at the right time. Because you have a small chance to miss something with just one inserter, and that chance goes technically not to 0, but way closer to 0% when you've got 2 inserters. And that's it. That should do it. Soon we will see our first Dingrit, though this one has the... How many pups? We need 3 pups. Gosh, playing without alt mode on, it looks like a different game. I'm like, what is this? In a way it's cool, in a way I hate it. I kind of wish you could customize alt mode. Like, I wish there were 2 or 3 layers of alt mode, because what I want to be always on is the inserter arrows, right? Like, I want those on always. What I want to be on always is like the building output icons. Like, where is the, you know, like the little blue arrows and stuff. What I would like to be able to turn off, actually, is recipe icons and modules. I wish those could be off while the inserter and other stuff could be on. Because at least for pyanodons, so many of the buildings are, you know, just making a certain thing only, like especially the flora and fauna. And stuff like this, you usually remember it by the shape of the build or the craziness. And, you know, you could always turn on the second alt mode real quick. So I wish we had 2 versions, essentially. Or even a version that you know, again, I'm just making crap up, but what if there was one where it's like, it was off, but when you highlight a building, the icon popped up? And I know you can look over to the side, but that requires you to move your eyes. And so it'd be way faster if you just be like, you know, you're looking around and you're like at this building, you're like, wait, what was this again? And you highlight a couple buildings and the icons are popping up right in front of your eyes. And you can see that like, oh yeah, that was lead, you know. But right now you have to look over to the side panel. Now, I know there's going to be some haters in the comments that are like, well, you could use the mode where the tooltip pops up over the mouse. But then you have to press a separate key for that, and it pops into a weird part of the screen. It's not always, like, the same visually. I'm not a fan of that one. I think it's not... What's the right word? I don't think it's a very human design. The giant tooltip popping up at the mouse cursor when you hold Alt. It certainly is a design, and I can see some reasons that some people like it, but I don't think it's a very human design. It doesn't work with the way eyeballs work and the way workflows work. That doesn't mean it doesn't work for anybody. That doesn't mean it's not anybody's favorite one, and that doesn't mean those people are wrong. But anyway, our first dingrit is being made, and it's very slow, which actually is an argument for this. I should have started this way. Stop it. Wait, why is it not... What? When I click on this, shouldn't it pick it up into the mouse cursor? Like, I'm not in map view. When I click on items, it picks them up. What is going on? Isn't that how... What the heck? That's how Yotoi works. Look, I pick up a Yotoi, I put it back. The bots are not getting to grab it because it's in my hands. But with dingrits, it's following some different rule. Probably because they are actually a fuel. See how they have a fuel value? It's like the AUG power thing that we never even looked into, because conceptually it's a fun flavor, but it's factory wise it's just more work for something that's probably not worth it. But yeah, with this one, I wonder if it's because they are a fuel that clicking on this does a different behavior. That's really interesting. Huh. Well, anyway, what do these look like when they're actually grazing? Oh, fun. Look at those little spiky boys. They're like a mixture between a wolf and a stegosaurus. Stegawolfosaurus. Also, flavor fail. This is like flora in the pen, and they don't have any flora. You can see the remains of a Scrondrix, though. So there is that. Cool. Dingrits are done. So Cridrin are the last animal needed, I think, or plant. Actually, they're plant-animal hybrid. So where do I make them? The first Cridrin comes from what? It is a botanical nursery, and we need Venus flytrap, DNA, and Cridrin codex. Okay, and how many do I need? Cridrin enclosure has 1 module slot, so I do not need many. Probably need like 2. One, 2. Oh no, we gotta wait for more. Wait for more circuits. How far away? Ooh, pretty far away. Pretty far away. What I might do at some point, like I could do that now actually, I'm slightly richer than I used to be, is get a tier 2 roboport that's blueprinted to have, oh look, methyl acrylate, which I've now made in 2 places. funny. Oh, because I'm making it the other way. Right, this was the, yeah, I've decided I don't even want to make it that way. Anyway, I'm thinking of blueprinting a RoboPort with like maybe 10 construction bots and like 4 logistics bots, or maybe 3. And then I paste that at every intersection to replace the radar, because we don't really need the radars. Actually, I do, because the continuous coverage of these is not big enough. Unless the RoboPort Mark II has better continuous coverage distance. It does not. It only has tier 2. The tier 3 one has a coverage of 3. So this could replace the radar, but it's too big to do that. So yeah, I don't know. Back to Cridron. Codex. And then you're gonna be Venus flytrap DNA sample. And I'm gonna trust that we get the result. We have a 20% chance for this to fail. That's a risk I'm willing to take. All right, so that's running. Take that off the request list. I guess I'll just go with 1 Cridron. Oh, and this makes 2 to start anyway, so yeah, I definitely don't need more. There's one more thing that we didn't do. You gotta actually get the dingrits out of here. I should do it this way because these are faster. Oh, what did that just do? Is that fine? Yeah, that was fine. Okay, so dingrits coming out. We will need a few for the bots. And then this will be dingrits. Dingrit. That'll take forever to fill up, but someday it might. Alright. Get rid of my relevant items. And we are out of here. Helium pro- Oh, back to Ralasia. That's what we were looking at. What's this one do? I think this is the one we liked. No, because the amount of helium you make this way is crap, right? Like, let's go really big and imagine Ralasia, recipe 3 with tier 3 plantations and maybe Mark 3. How bad is Mark 3 Ralasia? It doesn't seem that bad. I mean, great samples, kind of expensive. 2 Mark 2s. How expensive are Mark 2s to reproduce? Not bad. You mostly just need Fuwoji Mark II, unless I'm misinterpreting something. So yeah, we're just trying to come up with like an optimistic output rate. So if you needed 50 Ralasia, okay, that's insane. Let's say 10 Ralasia a second. Because how much Ralasia am I actually going through? Just for reference. So we are actually going through on the order of 5 a second right now. So let's go to like if we quadruple that at some point in the game and get 20 a second, that's getting us 2.4 helium. Now, the other way to get 2.4 helium, which I'm actually about to research, is the liquid clean air distillation process. So the liquid clean air distillation is this one. Now, I do get better ways to make helium as well. I think, yeah, it's not until prod sci though. So I'm guessing we'll need a decent amount of helium at some point in Pi 3. And I don't really know for sure if that's even true, but let's just imagine this system. No prod on this. So far, so good. Some biofilm. Some liquid nitrogen. Like, this is not that bad. I mean, that's a decent amount of activated carbon, but don't we get the new version? Or no, there is no new version. That's filters. Anyway, that's it. So that turd, all of that is like, okay, you're saving some activated carbon. Because with like speed modules and stuff, this isn't even that big of a build. So I'm not really worried about that. There's some gasoline involved, but gasoline's cheap. Oil products are basically free right now, especially gasoline, because that just comes from light oil. So that turd is certainly out. And this one doesn't even, is that even good? It doubles our seeds, which is fine, but you have to make paper towels, which is kind of annoying. Wow. This whole turd is a turd. This turd is a turd in the punch bowl. Like, I don't even want to pick this because it means I can like never afford like 150 mirror Mark IIIs. Like, that's a lot of resources for one building for only 12% more speed. It's ridiculous. Who designed this turd? I want to talk to a manager. Now, does the helium one have any other benefits? Or hydrogen? Or, well, it's both. Hydrogen and helium. It's the same amount of Ralasia in the same amount of time. It literally is just changing the output. 13 seeds. Oh, it doesn't need water, I guess? Not that that really matters, like, at all. But it does replace the water. And weirdly, recipe... Oh no, it replaced the water in that one too. Okay. Yeah, as far as I can tell, there's no other difference. So that's not really doing much for me. Then again, this is maybe just a cheap way to make helium. Period. Because now that I'm looking at the other ingredients, it's like, well, it's really only fertilizer. I guess there's the whole seed issue. Which even with recipe 3 is a decent, we're taking out a fourth. So we divide by 1, basically 0.75. Well, it's not 0.75, it's 15.5 out of 20. Let's go back to tier 2 everything. So we could make 3 helium a second on what is basically just fertilizer and some syngas. Is that good? I mean, that might be the one I pick just because I'm not even sure how good the paper towel one is. You know, it makes your builds a little smaller. I guess this part's smaller too, which is kind of nice. But we can speed beacon the botanical nurseries. You know, it cuts the amount. I'm gonna use the matrix solver because it'll know how to do this properly. It cuts the amount you need from 9.6 down to 8.4. That's not very much at all. On recipe 2, I need to be done with this episode. On recipe 2, how much does it save us? Because that's what we're on right now. So on recipe 2, it goes from 29.6 to 24. 30 to 24. It saves you a fifth. I mean, that's still not that much. Like, that's equivalent to boosting... It is more productivity, though, by a little bit, which is kind of nice. But these aren't that expensive in the first place, so it kind of doesn't matter. And then the paper towels themselves also technically have a cost, which is measured in... I'm surprised this doesn't properly see... Oh, it's probably because of this. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of fiber and hydroxide thrown in there to... And we can prod both of those. I don't know. Is the paper towel one really worth it? Is the helium one really worth it? That does go to making 8 helium in 50 seconds from... Yeah, maybe it's not that bad. And when do I get Ralasia recipe 3? Early on in Pi 3. And we already have all the things we need for it. Okay. I'm maybe convinced about this helium thing. I'm not doing sun concentration. Just literally, unless... The only reason I would do it is if I'd already made like 50 or 100 Ralasia Mark III plantations, and then I do the turd so it upgrades them without having to spend all the extra mirrors. That's the only... I would pick that ultra late game, just for a little bit more speed, but I still don't think that's ever going to be worth it. So yeah, I mean, this one feels like the way to go, because this one's just not a big enough deal. Because once you're at this stage, the seed cost is already a pretty small percentage. And that only gets more true. What are we even adding on recipe? Oh, urea. That one is more about speed than it is about anything else, because the cost is going up. You're also spending more biomass. And... fertilizer, you're spending more per Ralasia. Your seed ratio gets better though, so that's arguably maybe worth it. Actually, because of that, are you spending more fertilizer? See, now I've got questions. So, are you spending more fertilizer on recipe 4 versus recipe 3? It doesn't like that, whatever I'm doing. How do Matrix Solver's ignoring my demands. I mean, I can just look. 2.8 fertilizer versus 2.5. It is more fertilizer. But here we need 38 buildings versus... 14. So there is that, you know, but you're adding in a significant... But is that a significant urea cost? You know what I mean? Like, is that actually a significant urea cost? I don't think it is. Because can't I just do the whole urea from nothing at this point as well? What did I come up with that was urea from nothing? I know it was wastewater, but it was wastewater from what? Oh, was it a theoretical? It with a certain turd? I think it was with a certain turd. it was this one. It was with the Yadles turd. It's so interesting that it murdered... It switched back when I added this one in. But yeah, with spore collectors and speed modules, it's easy to just make urea from nothing. And look at this. 3 spore collectors and 1 evaporator can make 4 urea a second. I do have to destroy the spores though, which is, I guess, a thing. But you can get rid of those fairly quickly in a composter. So that's up to the Yadles turd, which I don't think I ever picked. Yeah. And I liked... What does this do? I get productivity for Yadles. I didn't like the cold air one because cold air is not that hard to get. So I don't think we're doing that. Unless it saves you something. Does the recipe change? Still 10 fertilizer, still 6. It's a little faster. But I don't think it's enough faster to feel like. So it's probably the wastewater one. 20% prod is nice, I guess. But the wastewater from nothing feels pretty strong, because then that makes urea a 0 input resource, which is pretty cool. I mean, that's very cool in my mind. Though you do have to deal with destroying 38 Yadle spores a second, which is kind of hilarious. So that's actually significant. Ooh, Matrix Solver even did that properly. Now that's cool. I don't know if it knows what it's doing or not, but it might. That's pretty cool. Look, is Helmut doing a smart? I didn't know it was capable of this, and it's not even showing up in the output that way. So that's what's really interesting about this. If I put it underneath, it's using it as a way to provide the biomass, right? But then if I put it above, it's correctly assigning the percentage to use up all the Yadle spores, which is not what I expected to see. That's really interesting. Yeah, I guess it's gonna cost me some sweet, sweet syrup. Do beacons work on these after we've picked that turd? Because they use fuel? I assume it still does. So it'll only take 2 composters to make that amount of urea. That's still... those 2 composters are bigger than all of those buildings put together. So I guess that's a significant part of this build. And then... that's actually a lot of biomass. Like, that's 10 megajoules. That's 10 megawatts of power. Is this actually a recipe? That doesn't look real. Because that's like, what is the ash? What? That's not a real recipe, right? I need to be done with this episode. Raw coal. No, that is a recipe. Okay. So that's good to know. Can that consume more biomass than boilers? Boilers consume like 12 a second each. But this would be consuming almost 20. With speed modules, this will consume more. We have to deal with the coal. Can throw that in a boiler. But in terms of decreasing fuel value, I'm just confused about the ash and where that's coming from and why this was in the section of Hellmod that shows us as a fuel. Because isn't it just a normal recipe? Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. It's this. Okay. And then what can I do with this? This can be used as a fuel. I'm really in the weeds here, aren't I? Alright, we need this menu. We need 250 steam up to the top. You're a boiler and you're using rock coal. So there you go. We need 2.296 boilers. Now, I guess this isn't that good because we still have to deal with the fuel value. If I could delete the coal more easily, but at that point, why not just do the boilers here and consume the biomass? That's not even that many more boilers. So this has stopped being about Ralasia, by the way. This is about the Yadol's turd, and how to deal with all of the biomass it creates, which is funny. Yeah, but we need like 3 boilers, 2 composters to deal with that. It still is urea from sweet syrup would be the final thing, which, as we've seen, the sweet syrup loop is proddable, and by the time I'm really using it, I think we'll almost have tier 2 modules. I can kind of assume that. Oh, wait, what? I swear there was more to this. I'm thinking of B-type molasses. Yeah. And then B-type molasses. Oh, I'm thinking of this. So if we need 100 wastewater, I guess now we're looking at this. Then we need 6 B-type molasses. This can be prodded. Yeah, once we have... Oh, wait, we do need A-type molasses. Once we have the tier 3 pulp mills, then it's a loop. See, and now this feels cheaper. Man, it keeps flip-flopping. What's cheap in this world? I wonder if Yotoi leaves will ever be the easier way to make biocrud. It's hard to imagine. I can just do this, and then the seaweed, which is... And it's got the turd, so it's really like way less than this. It's probably only like 2 buildings would do this. So now we're generating 100 wastewater a second from, which is how much urea? 5 a second. But that's proddable as well. Let's go back to this. Now I'm just kind of comparing ways to make urea from nothing. Like if I had the Yadol's turd, would I just do this anyway? Is kind of what I'm getting at. Would I prod this or not? Reduces seaweed, increases furnacing, but I'm gonna have a beacon anyway on the furnace, so probably I would. Yeah, I probably would prod that. So now we're looking at this. I do need a tiny bit of A-type molasses to loop in, but it's very tiny. And eventually that stops being a thing once I have the tier 2 modules. Or, sorry, tier 3 buildings. Tier 2 modules gets me to here. Tier 1 modules, which is really where I'm at right now. This is what I'm capable of at the current moment. This version requires slightly more of the extra inputted A-type molasses. Still not very much. We're still talking 5 urea from only 0.05 tufra. And 0.05 filtration media. The filtration media is always part of it, the tufra is not. So now this just feels better to me, right? Like, this is superior. I don't really see how that Yedel spore thing was any better than this. As cool as it is, this feels just as good. 0.042 filtration media. You know, I mean, even at 50 urea a second, this thing is honking. This is spitting out absurd amounts. You know, let me actually do this turd correctly. Ooh, it was letting the beacon affect the seaweed. That's no good. All right, where is the turd for this? Shoot, it's called Improved Pathfinding, and it'll be Mark II. Okay, so that's the actual number. Ooh, 1 to 1. And I mean, for 50 urea a second, this is still kind of nuts. And then the filtration media with the new recipe, way cheaper. What was subbed in your microfiber again? Oh yeah, this isn't even that expensive. And even that has prod. I mean, this is like nothing, you know? For 50 urea a second, these are the ingredients. So, and the tufra cost, which isn't even that much by current standards, like literally, even if I'm just doing this one, I think I have Mark II tufra, right? Did I ever do 2 fra? You got 1 fra, 2 fra, 3 fra, 4 fra. Yeah, I mean, this is nothing. So this makes me feel like I'm never gonna do the other one. Anyway, back to Ralasia. To finish my Ralasia's thought, I think the helium is the choice, because it doesn't feel that necessary to do this one. This one just feels almost actively bad, because 12% speed alone does not feel like enough to justify that insane cost on new buildings. And then this one's at least decent way to generate helium, so why not? I feel like in the late game, the other ways to make helium are so much better, it's not gonna matter either. So it feels like it doesn't matter no matter what we do. The paper towel one would at least make the Ralasia productivity slightly higher, but the cost of Ralasia is pretty low anyway, so I don't know if that's ever going to be an issue. Not to mention, do we get a Ralasia Smart Farm package? Eventually we do, so like, at some point we might make Ralasia this way. I don't know. Ash and soil alone, just to make a ton of Ralasia. So I'll probably just do that. Because the harvester, well, again, that's not until utility science. So we're a long way from that. But in the ultra late game, this is probably what we'll do. So I don't need to worry about the ultra late game, which means helium is certainly the right answer. Okay, well, we've decided on helium here. Let's go ahead and make a note of that, and we are done with the episode, I think. Cotton gun. Yadles, free wastewater. No, not worth it. Can do. Molasses B for free. What's it called? Urea. So what did we just decide? Malaysia. Helium. Okay. Now, is this number getting smaller? No. That seems like... Fudge. You know, you guys were screaming at your screens for a long time, weren't you? You probably left a comment, and now at this very moment, you're like, oh crap, delete the comment, quick. Yeah, you definitely left a comment about that one. I know you did. I know you, whoever you are. And you know you did. Okay. Alright. Well, we got enough Dingrip hopes for a while. That's really funny. Oh, you know, one thing I definitely need to do is... grab... Wow, we really didn't get very many of these, did we? Okay, my bots are turned off. I just want to fill up the repro complex and then we can get those all settled. Okay. Well, slightly annoying, but it'll get there eventually. Thankfully, this is not going to have to produce pups for a while. Let me put a bunch in the output here, so that way it fills up the belt. So this stops consuming. And then this should be good to go now. Okay. There we go. 5 more dingrits in there, and that should speed up things. All right. That'll finish itself in the next episode, and we're going to call it there. With Cridrin being our last flora fauna thing needed for the pi3 science. And then at that point, we're pretty close. We've got a few more things to worry about, like some magnets, some more setting up of processes, the bio ore. But that's it. I mean, we've got all of the building blocks once we've got Cridrin. So I think at this point we're probably like 3 to 5 episodes away from pi3 science, if I had to guess. It could be more. Sometimes it's hard to guesstimate. Those things might take me a while. I don't really know. But it feels like we're pretty close at this point, because I've even got the great samples already. Which I still don't really know what this was about. Alright, well, as always, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one.